Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the exciting webinar on strategic partnership and risk management in the international market expansion. My name is Ron Nolasco, and I'll be your moderator for today's session, and we're thrilled to have you here. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to go over some quick housekeeping items to make sure we are all smooth and engaging presentation today. So first, audio and video. To keep things clear and minimize any background noise, all participants will remain on mute during the session. That said, I want to make sure you can all hear me and see the slides. If everything looks good on your end, please go ahead and type yes in the chat box. Good morning, Lisa. Can everyone hear the audio? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we know that you might have some questions, so please feel free to have them chat in the chat box or Q&A box, and that will be addressed after the presentation. So this webinar is recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So just go ahead and subscribe to International Trade Council YouTube channel. All right, so let's start. It's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Sebright Chen, Chairman and CEO of Summer Atlantic Capital. We are honored to have him today to share his insight on today's webinar titled Strategic Partnership and Risk Management in International Market Expansion. In this webinar, we will explore choosing the right partners, learn how to access potential partners for global expansion, ensuring alignment in strategy, culture, and operation. Managing risk effectively, develop a solid risk management plan to navigate financial, regulatory, operational, and geopolitical challenges in cross-border investment. Keys to market entry success: explore essential factors like market visibility, legal compliance, and strong governance for smooth international expansion. And lastly, optimizing partnership and resolving conflicts, master conflict resolution, strategies to maintain transparency, strengthen the relationship, and ensure long-term success in global market. So without any further ado, let's welcome Sebright Chen. Sir, go ahead and start the presentation.
So thanks, Ron. So first thing first, I wanted to check if everyone can see my screen well.
Yes.
Perfect. So just get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are joining from. So I'm Sebright, Chairman, CEO of Summer Atlantic, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. The world is changing fast. Business today can't afford to think small or local. Global expansion is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. But let's be clear, expanding into new markets isn't just about opportunity, it's about risk. And those who don't manage risk correctly often face costly failures. Today, I'm going to walk you through the strategic and practical aspects of international market expansion, how to form successful partnerships and manage risk in a structured, disciplined way. Whether you are an investor, a business executive, or an entrepreneur, these insights will be invaluable. So I'll share before we start, I will share briefly about Summer Atlantic. So we are a strategic investor as well as help companies expand to the international markets. So we are strategic investor for companies in both equity and debt, and also help our portfolio companies accessing the international markets, such as the U.S. market as well as the Asian market. And we partner with companies, build joint ventures with them, and operate the business with them on the ground. So that's very brief about myself. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, as well as I got my MBA from University of Chicago, School of Business, and received multiple awards from the different international markets. So let's just go to the topic. Why this matters, the big picture. If you are here today, you'll likely understand that going global is a future, but the reality is that most companies fail at international expansion. Why that? Because they either choose the wrong partners, underestimate the risk, or lack a structured approach. This session isn't about theories, it's about actionable insights. I'll share real-world case studies, including my own experiences, the successful ones, and how to turn failures into success. By the end of this webinar, you will walk away with a framework that will help you expand internationally with confidence and discipline. So what you will gain, the key takeaways. I summarized four aspects on this slide as the key takeaways for you to learn from this webinar. Today, I want you to focus on one thing, clarity in decision making. Every mistake in international expansion, whether choosing the wrong partner or mismanaging risk, comes from unclear strategies. So let's get started by discussing the first major pillar, strategic partnerships. So why startups? Why partnership drive global growth? The fastest way to scale globally is not alone. The right partner can give you local market knowledge, distribution access, and regulatory guidance. But partnerships can also be your biggest risk if they're now structured correctly. A strong international partnership can be the difference between scaling fast and losing millions in failed market entry efforts. Let's look at the case study. So Microsoft's successful international joint venture in China is one of the most successful entered one of the most challenging markets, China, through a strategic joint venture. For years, Microsoft wanted to bring Xbox into China, but there was a major hurdle. China had a 14-year ban on gaming consoles. The right market entry was impossible. To solve this, Microsoft formed the joint venture with Best TV, a subsidiary of Shanghai Media Group, one of China's largest state-owned media conglomerates. They formed a 50-50% joint venture, and this 50-50% joint venture allows Microsoft to operate under a local entity, gaining crucial government approvals and ensuring that Xbox complied with China's strict content regulations. What made this partnership successful was a clear focus on localization and the strategic alignment between Microsoft and Best TV. They understood that succeeding in China wasn't just about selling a product. It was about adapting to the local culture and meeting regulatory requirements. They took a multi-pronged approach. The first thing is product localization. Microsoft had to customize Xbox to fit the taste of Chinese gamers and meet local censorship standards. And common understanding on product localization include, lots of companies and executives think localization is just about doing the translation, which is not exactly the truth. If you just simply do the translation, and then local markets such as India, China, they will understand the logic behind that. They have their own habits, they have their own understandings towards the story, things like that. So that won't work for most of the startups. So a successful product localization, it's much beyond translation. It's a redevelopment and restructure of the existing product, which requires both technical work as well as understanding towards a culture and language skill, things like that, just to name a few. The second part is going to be building governance relations, Best TV being a Chinese media giant, and the connections to navigate local regulatory frameworks for the joint venture. The joint venture adapted Xbox business models to make it more appealing to Chinese consumers, offering locally tailored content, pricing strategies, and distribution channels. The result was a successful launch of Xbox in China in 2014, making Microsoft the first foreign console maker to officially operate in the country. Within 2 years, the partnership had turned Xbox into one of the leading gaming platforms in China with millions of units sold. This case highlights how strong governance, adaptation to local regulations, and strategic partnerships can create a win-win scenario. Microsoft, as a global tech leader, had to learn to work with a local partner who understand the Chinese market unique challenges. This is a perfect example of how to enter a complex market where a strategically structured joint venture. So why so many startups and companies fail in international expansions? What are the common pitfalls in international partnerships? In global partnerships, optimism is not a strategy. Many executives believe that good intentions will lead to success. Indeed, they don't. Clear governance and financial accountabilities do. If your goals, operational expectations, and governance aren't aligned, the partnership will fail. What will be the solution? A structured framework for partner selection. Choosing a partner is like choosing a co-pilot for a long-haul flight. If your values, directions, and skill sets don't match, you won't make it to your destination. Before signing any partnership, use this 5-point framework on this slide to evaluate the fit. Due diligence isn't a one-time activity. It's about ongoing process. Always verify financial strengths, governance policies, as well as operational capabilities before committing, as shown on this slide. Now let's shift gears and talk about risk, because expanding internationally without risk management is like flying without a parachute. Let's break down the major risks you need to be aware of. Here I listed on this slide 4 critical types of risk. There are correlations to each type of risk listed here. When it comes to international expansion, risk is not just a possibility, it's a certainty. But risk itself isn't the enemy, and manage the risk is. The key to success isn't avoiding risk, it's understanding, structuring, and mitigating it. If you fail to manage this risk, your business will face unexpected costs, legal complications, and even total failure. So this slide and the next slide, I'll bring the key takeaways from a case study of and manage the risk. So let's just go to, let's stay on this slide for a moment, and I will just bring you the case study of SoftBank and Credit Suisse failures. And I believe most of the people attending the webinar today know some sort of stories behind the scene for SoftBank and Credit Suisse failures, or maybe 90% of you know that. But anyways, let's take a look at the case study of how and manage the risk can bring detrimental outcomes for firms in all sizes, from SMEs all the way to Global 500. Some of the biggest financial collapses in history happened not because of bad business ideas, but because of poor risk management. SoftBank over-leveraged its Vision Fund investments, making high-risk bets on unproven startups with weak due diligence. Credit Suisse ignored red flags in their financial oversight, leading to billions in losses. What's a lesson? Unchecked ambition without strong governance leads to disaster. If major firms with decades of experience can fail, so can anyone. That's why having a risk management framework is essential. Now let's go deeper into the repercussions of the SoftBank and Credit Suisse failures, not just for companies involved, but for the broader global financial ecosystem. So let's take a look from the first perspective, aggressive expansion and unchecked risk. SoftBank's Vision Fund, which invested billions of dollars into high-growth tech startups, became the poster child for unchecked expansions. But as we saw with WeWork and other investments, SoftBank's ambition was now backed by proper risk management. Aggressive investment strategies, especially in untested high-risk companies, led to massive financial exposure. What's the impact? Well, WeWork's failed IPO and other similar failures caused significant investor losses and market uncertainty. Companies that were valued at billions of dollars become unsustainable overnight, leading to job losses, wiped out investor capital, and damaged the reputations of those involved. SoftBank's governance structure was weak, which allowed all decision making to happen without proper oversight. Their lack of regulatory compliance in their international investment exposed them to even greater risk. In many ways, SoftBank was able to take large risks without sufficiently examining the consequences. Similarly, Credit Suisse was not immune to these governance issues at all. The collapse of Archegos Capital due to inadequate risk controls resulted in multi-billion-dollar losses for the bank. significantly damaging their standing in the financial industry. What about the impact? The lack of strong governance and regulatory compliance didn't just harm these companies, it shook global financial markets, created a loss of trust among investors, leading to market volatility and increased uncertainty in the banking sector. The fallout from these few years sparked broader concerns over the stability of the financial ecosystem. SoftBank's Region Fund relied heavily on debt and external capital to fuel its investment. When markets turned against them, their strategy led to significant financial strain. They borrowed extensively to fund their global expansion plans, assuming that high growth would cover the cost. When that growth slowed or failed, they were left exposed. Similarly, Credit Suisse used leveraged positions to fund Archegos Capital's investments when Archegos collapsed due to poor risk management. Credit Suisse was left holding the bag, losing over 5 billion US dollars. So the consequences are very obvious. Those high sick few years have far-reaching consequences. Financial institutions that rely heavily on debt-driven models or unsustainable funding sources increases market instability. This creates a ripple effect that impacts pension funds, private active firms, and global investors, reducing capital flows and increasing risk premiums across markets. Ultimately, the financial ecosystem is left with increased risk and a reduced appetite for investment, and this directly affects the global economy. So let's consider about the broader implication. Investor confidence are significantly eroded by both companies' failures in the global markets. Such activities lead to a decline in global investment flows. When large institutions lose billions in failed investments, others become more hesitant to deploy capital, resulting in a reduced investment pace in emerging markets. Financial market volatility is also broad. Those high-profile failures added to market volatility, triggering flight to safety among investors and led to a shift to capital away from riskier assets into more secure investments like government bonds, affecting liquidity and market dynamics. After the collapse of Archegos and SoftBank's fallout with WeWork, regulatory scrutiny on private active venture capital and large-scale investment strategies has only increased. Governments and regulators are now rethinking how much risk is acceptable in these sectors, which could slow down innovation and capital flow in the future. So, what will be the key takeaways from our own expansion? The key lessons from those few years are clear. When scaling internationally, you must have a structured risk management framework in place to protect both your investment and your long term success. Whether you're entering a new market, partnering with local entities, or navigating geopolitical risk, your approach must be disciplined. The global economy is interconnected, and poor decisions at the corporate level can have widespread implications. By learning from these few years, we will not only safeguard our business, but also contribute to stabilizing the ecosystem and fostering long-term sustainable growth in the global market. So what will be our conclusion from this case? This case is also Bank of Credit Suisse are stark reminders of the fragility of global markets and investment. They highlight that while aggressive growth and big risk can lead to short-term rewards, they also come with a potential for devastating long-term consequences. As investors and business leaders, we must act with foresight, caution, and resilience. Risk management isn't optional, it's essential for the stability of our business and the broader financial ecosystem. Let's take these lessons to heart as we continue our discussions today. Successful global expansion isn't based on hope, it's based on a structured risk management framework. This means conducting deep market research before committing resources, building strong legal and compliance protections, using financial hedging strategies to mitigating currency and capital markets, as well as having an operational crisis plan to handle disruptions. Companies that follow this framework not only expand faster, they protect themselves from costly mistakes, as mentioned before. Geopolitical risk can be some of the most unpredictable and damaging ones. Take the US China tensions as an example. Companies like Apple and Tesla have had to redesign supply chains, change regulatory strategies, and shift investments to stay competitive. The lesson here is clear. Always have geopolitical adaptability built into your international expansion strategy. So, what will be the key takeaway from past few years and best practice in the global markets? The difference between success and failure in the global markets isn't luck, it's preparation. You must have a structured risk management strategy in place. The companies that survive market shocks are the ones that anticipate, adapt, and execute strategically. So let's go to the next section, which is structuring international partnerships for success. A strong international partnership isn't built on trust alone. It's built, of course, trust is important. You won't do any business with a person you don't trust. But trust is not sufficient enough for you to build a partnership. It's built on clear legal and financial structures. The most successful partnerships are those that define who controls what, how profits and losses are shared, and how disputes are resolved. If you don't set these structures upfront, conflicts will arise and partnership will fall apart. Let's take a look at another case study from Summer Atlantic's own experience. So, a great example of a structured success one of our transactions in Asia will ensure strong legal frameworks, clear financial reporting, as well as defined exit strategies from the beginning. Because of this structured approach, the partnership has thrived, growing from an initial pilot project into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. What will be the practical strategies for the long-term success? A good partnership is like a good marriage. It requires constant communication, shared goals, and plan for the future. If your partnership doesn't include regular performance reviews, financial reporting, and crisis planning, it will eventually fail. If your international partnerships choose any of these red flags should at this slide, pause and rethink your strategy. It does not mean you're totally doing wrong, but there are some things you need to rethink and redesign about the strategy part. A weak foundation will lead to conflict, losses, and potentially business failure. So let's go to the next segment, which is the conflict resolution and crisis management. What causes international business conflicts? Conflicts arise when expectations are unclear. The three biggest causes of business disputes are financial and contractual disagreements, cultural misunderstanding, as well as operational integration failures. We're not going to expand each categories here, but something for us to think. Now let's talk about conflict resolution. In my own experience, most international partnerships don't fail because of bad products or market conditions. They fail because of people issues, poor communication, lack of trust, and unclear governance lead to breakdowns. But here is the good news. Most conflicts can be resolved if addressed early and strategically. So let's go through three critical approaches. The first thing I'm going to mention today is mediation and structured negotiation. When disagreements arise, bringing in a neutral third party can de escalate tensions. Formal mediation is a far better option than rushing into legal action, which can permanently damage partnerships. The second one will be governance intervention, as well as escalation passes. Every partnership should have a built-in escalation mechanism. If low if lower level teams can resolve an issue, there should be a clear steps to bring the matter to senior leadership or independent review board. Without escalation passes, conflicts tend to linger and go toxic and very costly. The third point I wanted to mention here today is adaptability and flexibility in restructuring partnerships. The best international partnerships are built to evolve. Market conditions change, consumer demands shift, and regulatory environment fluctuate. If your agreement is rigid, you will struggle to adapt. Partnerships that last are those that are flexible enough to pivot when necessary. Let's go to the next slide. And I'm going to bring another case study, another two case studies in data on this slide, one case study. I'll share a real example of how a feelings partnership was turned around. A few years ago, I advised a joint venture between a tech company and a Chinese distributor. Initially, everything looks good. Solid contracts, aligned goals, and strong market demand. Looks like a very good marriage from the surface. But within the first year, problems emerged. The company, the foreign company outside of China, was frustrated with delays in regulatory approvals and suspects that their partner wasn't prioritizing their product. The Chinese distributor, on the other hand, felt that the partner didn't understand the local market conditions at all and was making unrealistic demands. Instead of letting this turn into a legal dispute, both sides agreed to restructure the joint venture agreement. They created a revised financial incentive system that rewarded regulatory approvals, a dedicated local market team to streamline communication, as well as quarterly performance reviews to ensure both sides stayed accountable. Within 6 months, the partnership was back on track, and within 2 years, it had become one of the top players in the market. What's a lesson for us? Many conflicts are fixable if there is a willingness to communicate and restructure. And usually, if the problem is not restructured well, it's because of there's no willingness to communicate. So that's why I mentioned here, I wanted to mention again, is many conflicts are fixable if there is a willingness to communicate and restructure. Let's take a look at another case study, how Daimler and BYD restructured their failing partnership into success. Back in 2010, Daimler, which most of people here know Daimler, if not Daimler, you must know Mercedes-Benz. So Daimler is a parent company of Mercedes-Benz, partnered with BYD, a Chinese electrical vehicle giant, to form a joint venture called Denza. The goal was to create a premium electric vehicle tailored for the Chinese market at that time. Their initial struggle is the misalignment in strategy and market fit in China. At first, the Denza seemed like a powerful alliance. Daimler brought its engineering expertise and luxury branding, while BYD had deep knowledge of the Chinese electric vehicle market and battery technology. But things didn't go as planned. Initial sales were disappointing. The brand struggled because it was positioned as a high-end EV, but Chinese consumers viewed BYD as a mass-market brand, creating a brand confusion. So I'm going to just to give you a little bit more background here so everyone knows what was going on. So BYD initially started in China as a low-end consumer vehicle company. They provide cheap vehicles to Chinese families, and that's where they started. And they fastly become to one of the largest market player. That's why, from the branding positioning perspective, most of the consumers in China have the impression that BYD is a mass market brand. And Daimler, on the other hand, Mercedes-Benz is giving most of the consumers a high-end brand impression. So let's go to the next point. The turning point is Daimler adjusted its approach. By 2018, it became clear that the 50% joint venture structure wasn't working. So if we rethink back the key study I mentioned before, is from between Microsoft, the Xbox, and the best TV, which is also a 50% joint venture, which worked very well at that time. But for this time, Daimler and BYD also formed a 50% joint venture. But this time, the 50% joint venture structure wasn't working. The governance model was too rigid, and decisions were slow because of its 50-50. Daimler, known for luxury vehicles, was hesitant to embrace a mass market EV strategy. Meanwhile, BYD understood the local market but lacked full decision making authority. So they stacked. No one is making the decision. What will be the solution? Restructuring the joint venture. To turn things around, Daimler decided to reduce its stake in the joint venture and allow BYD to take the lead in product strategy and operations. This restructuring gave BYD more decision-making power, enabling faster innovation and better alignment with local consumer preferences. Key changes in this restructuring between Daimler and BYD include shifted control to BYD to ensure faster decision-making, as well as redesigning the product to fit mass market demand instead of targeting only luxury consumers. The third point would be adopted a localized branding and pricing strategy to match market expectations. What will be the outcome from the struggles to market success? Once BYD took greater control of the joint venture, Denza gained traction in China's fast-growing EV market. The brand repositioned itself with a more competitive pricing point and began integrating BYD's latest battery technology. Today, Denza has increased the sales significantly in China and has become an important player in China's premium electric vehicle segment. What started as a struggling partnership was successfully transformed into a high-performing joint venture. So, what are the lessons learned for us in international partnerships? The first thing I will bring up is going to be the flexibility in governance. It is critical. If a partnership isn't working, don't be afraid to restructure. Business conditions change and agreements should be adaptable. The second point is local market adaptation is key. Just because a strategy works in one market does not mean it will work in another. We can't just simply copy and paste. We need to do localization and be flexible. Daimler originally misread the Chinese consumer base and how to adjust. The next point is let the local partner lead where they have expertise. Daimler realized that BYD understood the market better and gave them more control, leading to improved results. The Daimler BYD case shows that even major global players must be willing to pivot and restructure partnerships when necessary. International joint ventures require constant evaluation, flexibility, and strategic realignment to succeed. What will be the takeaways and conclusions we can have from this case study? This case study is a reminder that international partnerships are not static. The initial agreement you sign does not have to be permanent. If the market changes, you must adapt. If the partner dynamic shifts, you must realign. The companies that succeed in international markets are those that continuously reassess their strategies and are willing to make tough decisions when things are not working very well. This is a great example of how a failing partnership can be restructured and turned into a long-term success through smart governance adjustments and market-driven decision making. So I just running into the final section of our presentation today, the key takeaways and why this matters to you. Well, we covered a lot today, so let's just recap the key takeaways. The first thing will be finding the right partners. Expanding internationally is a high stakes move. Choose partners based on alignment, capability, and transparency, not just the short term convenience. The second recap I wanted to share with you is mitigate risk with a structured approach. Risk is predictable if you have the right framework in place. Use due diligence, market research, and compliance strategies to identify and reduce financial, legal, and operational risk. The third point is build transparent and flexible agreements. Your partnership contracts should be designed for the long term, not just for the short term. Clear governance, decision-making structures, and financial reporting prevent misunderstanding to some extent. And the next point is preparing for your challenges, and pivot when necessary. International markets are very dynamic. Your ability to adapt and restructure partnerships when needed will define your long-term success. Take these insights and apply them to your business strategy. The companies that succeed in global expansion are the ones that plan intelligently, execute strategically, and pivot when required. So let's take a final recap of our presentation today, why this is important to you and why this matters to you. Before we wrap up, I wanted to leave you with this thought. International expansion isn't just for large corporations. Mid-sized companies, startups, and investment firms all need to think globally to stay competitive. What separates winners from losers in international markets is not just about money, technology, or even market opportunity. It's having the right partnerships and risk strategies. Your competitive advantage depends on smart partnerships. If you don't have strong partners, you will struggle with execution in foreign markets. Risk, of course, is not a threat. It's indeed a managed opportunity that you can leverage to bring you the competitive advantage as compared to your competitors. The best investors and business leaders aren't afraid of risk. They study it, manage it, and turn it into a competitive advantage. Success in global markets requires structure, discipline, and adaptability. If you take away one thing from this session, remember this: international expansion rewards the structured and punished the unprepared. So we covered a lot today, but this is just the beginning of the conversation. I encourage you to take these insights back to your teams, your boardrooms, and your investment discussions. If you have further questions or are interested in deeper collaborations, feel free to connect with Ron or myself and my team at Summer Atlantic. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you thrive in global markets. Now let's move to the Q&A. I'd love to hear your thoughts and answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Sebright. So we're open for questions. Please feel free to type in your questions in our chat box or Q&A box. And while we are waiting for the questions, I'd like to take this time to introduce Adam FTD. It's a powerful platform designed to help businesses and individuals streamline their workflow and enhance productivity. Whether you're looking for advanced data management solutions, seamless integration, or innovative digital tools, Adam FTD has you covered. So to learn more, visit adamftd.com and discover how it can transform the way you work. So yeah, we're open for questions now. Please feel free to type in your questions. All right, we have one here from Diana. Um, how can we leverage partnerships to reduce operational and financial risk in new markets?
Well, it's a very broad question, so I'm just going to, if we keep discussing today, it's going to be another 30 minutes answer for this, but just in brief. So operational, I want to ask you, what do you mean by operational? There are many different aspects in operational works, right? So operation and financial. So most companies wanted to leverage international markets to access for more investment as well as sales. So those are the different parts related to both financial and operational. So for example, if you are a US company and one of the largest market for you is going to be like, let's say, Indian market or Chinese market because it's one of the largest population there, right? And so let's make an example. And both Indian market and Chinese market are quite similar to each other due to its size of market as well as the regulations and cultural things, but their culture are different to each other. So, for example, um, you're looking for a partner from one of these markets to help you with struggling the market share and gaining you more investors from these markets. What can you do? You can a couple of different things you can try. The first thing is forming a simple distribution partnership, and then just for the local partner to distribute your products. But I don't know what your product is, so it really depends on case by case situation. Sometimes it works, sometimes it not. But if your product is highly regulated, then it requires you to form a joint venture with a partner, and depends on the specific product regulation. Then you have to discuss with the partner what will be the shareholder structure that makes sense and could be compliant with the regulatory network to successfully launch your product in the local markets. And then the partner could invest in your joint venture, and you can invest in your joint venture as well, and with the distribution channels, and build up the distribution channels in the international markets to bring you more customers. And at the same time, your investors back at your home will see more tractions from your sales and be more willing to investing in your headquarters, things like that. That will be lots of things going on, but that's what we do here at Summer Atlantic as well. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but if you have more details, I would like to tackle more on that.
Thank you, Sebright. We have another question here from Arodia. How to navigate enhanced due diligence when entering international market?
Right. So, can I ask what's your industry? Okay. I don't know if you can, answer immediately, but so due diligence in international markets is a little bit different as compared to doing the due diligence in your local market. So you need to first understand like the different system, the softwares, and the regulatory frameworks in international markets to check any legal risk or the risk I mentioned in the presentation of the partner, as well as you need to understand a little bit more about the partner and their shareholder, not just the company itself, but also the shareholders and their related entities. That'll be something very critical for you, especially expanding to the international markets. And then that'll be something in addition to the typical due diligence, as well as the legal framework in the typical market, because like for some markets, it's okay to do equity investment. But for certain markets, it's better to just take over the assets rather than uh, buying the assets. So it really depends on which market you are referring to. And in terms of additional due diligence, also typical due diligence, you of course need to run like market risk, market due diligence, partner feed, product feed, technology due diligence, as well as operational due diligence. Usually, like here at Summer Atlantic, we have 5-page brochure towards the due diligence aspects we're going to run now. We have very disciplined framework in dealing with those diligence issues, things like that. So from the partner selection all the way to the typical, technical due diligence, commercial due diligence, business risk, things like that, you have to run. And beyond that, you also have to consider the geopolitical risk and the shareholders behind the scene for the company you're collaborating with, things like that.
Thank you, Sebright. And just to add up with that, Arodia, I just want to just insert that ITC right now is currently doing has a platform from ICTTM. ICTTM is our private entity or subsidiary. We are developing a platform right now which is already commercial. It's Adam FTD, and it will help your due diligence and KYC. So if you would like to know more about it, just please let me know, or you can visit adamftd.com. So we have another question here from Mark. Have you seen successful partnership between organizations where their traditional market sector do not normally align?
Can you repeat the last sentence? The traditional sectors.
Have you seen successful partnerships between organizations where their traditional market sectors do not normally align?
Not normally aligned. Well, so first thing first, I think I need to ask you, what do you mean by do not normally aligned? Which part is not aligned?
Okay, we'll go back on that question.
Okay,
And oh, he said, example, food company partners with IT company.
if you don't mind, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see the question.
Yep, sure. Yeah, go ahead, please. So the question is, have you seen successful partnership between organizations where their traditional market sectors do not normally align? And the sample is example of food company partners with IT company.
Right. So, is your concern more towards because my having some? Okay, give me 1 second. So let me just give you an example. Um, so usually, so is your concern more towards intellectual properties? So for example, like so lots of US companies in the technology sector, especially like in the IT sector, they were concerning about intellectual properties as well as technology risk and data security, information security when doing business with the Asian markets, not just China, but also India, things like that as well. So there was a successful partnership, I would say. But it's a tough communication process. I'm not going to review the name, but initially, so their marriage seemed very well from the very beginning, and initially the communication was quite smooth, and they are indeed at two different sectors, and they have different perspectives, but uh, they wanted to achieve the market cap success at the very beginning, so they aligned very well at the very beginning. But at the end of the day, they started to come into different opinions where the U.S. companies start thinking about my data security, information security, things like that, and the foreign enterprise started considering about okay, what about like my future rights and like what about the government change in policies, shifting policies, and what would that bring to my business goals? And there is a discrepancy between their regions, for those two partners, and then there is a restructuring. Either like one partner is increasing their shares, or one partner totally exit the joint venture. So, yes, there was successful partnership between organizations there where their traditional market sectors are not normally aligned.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? All right, while we are waiting for questions, just few announcement again. This webinar is recorded, and if you would like to do the replay, please go to our YouTube channel, International Trade Council, and should receive a certificate of participation in the next 24 hours by attending this webinar. I don't see any more questions here, Sebright. Still have 10 minutes. Also, if you would like to add more or final thoughts about the presentation, please go ahead and do so.
All right. So yeah, there's one part I would like to add on. It's going to be the case study on the Credit Suisse and Stop the Bank. So let me just So the case study on Credit Suisse and SoftBank, and I wanted to mention is a few years of SoftBank and Credit Suisse also impact the industry far beyond the tech and financial sectors, and the broader implications are significant and lessons we learned from the for the local for the global ecosystem include risk oversight and diversifications, such as financial institutions and corporations need to build diversified funding sources to avoid catastrophic exposure. And over leverage can destabilize markets and lead to global economic downturns. Stronger governance is critical for us. Governance frameworks are critical to avoid poor decision makings at the executive level. Investment decisions, particularly those involved large sums and international markets, need multiple layers of scrutiny and governance to ensure sustainability. So I wanted to point out that sustainability and governance, all the matters related to ESG, is not just a tag. It's indeed the philosophy and principle we should follow for our ongoing business and investment. And international investment should be anchored in robust risk management structures without strong regulatory controls and financial accountability. Global markets are more susceptible to shocks that can impact entire economies from developed to emerging markets. So, well, that will be the conclusion. So,
All right.
yeah,
Uh, Thank you for your time, Seabright, and we appreciate you being our speaker today. So that brings us to the end of our session. On behalf of International Trade Council, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Sebright Chen for his exceptional presentation and to all of you who are actively participating. Your insight, questions, and engagement have truly enriched today's session. If you have any further questions, again, as Seabright mentioned, feel free to reach out to him or reach out to me. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars. Thank you, Seabright. Thank you,
thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everyone.